The Islam of Hamza and Umar radiallahu anhuma. In the 6th year after prophethood, Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, the Prophet's uncle, embraced Islam. Hamza was known as the strongest of the Quraysh. Allah gave strength to the Prophet with him. Then Umar ibn Khattab accepted Islam by the virtue of the Prophet's supplication, and the believers gained strength and were safe from the Quraysh. Abu Talib's mountain path. The harm directed to the Prophet from the Quraysh intensified. The Prophet and his family were confined to the mountain path of Abu Talib for 3 years. Abdullah ibn Abbas was even born there. The disbelievers had caused the Prophet great harm during this time until the Prophet came out of the confinement at the age of 49. The death of Abu Talib and Khadija radiallahu anha. A few months later, the Prophet's uncle Abu Talib passed away at the age of 87. Then shortly after this, Khadija, his wife radiallahu anha, passed away, and the harm of the disbelievers towards them intensified. Setting out for Ta'if. The Prophet set out to Ta'if with Zayd ibn Haritha to call them to Allah. They stayed there a number of days. However, the people rejected the message and harmed the Prophet expelling him and stoning him until blood poured from his ankles. The Prophet left them and headed back to Makkah, where he entered under the protection of Al-Mut'im ibn Adi. Addas's Islam. On his journey back, he met Addas, who was a Christian, who believed in him and embraced Islam. Belief of the jinn. He also came across a group of jinn at a place called Nakhla. 7 of them from the people of Nasibiyin. They heard the Quran and embraced Islam. The night journey. He was taken by night to Masjid al-Aqsa and then ascended above the heavens to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah spoke directly to him and obligated upon him the 5 daily prayers. Presenting Islam to the tribes. The Prophet remained in Makkah, calling the different tribes to Allah. He would present himself to them every season, seeking aid to propagate the message of Allah, and they would be rewarded with paradise in return. However, none of them accepted except the Ansar. Allah had saved this as an honor for the Ansar. The message had reached 6 of them in Mecca, and they answered the call of Allah and His Messenger ﷺ and returned to Medina and called their people to Islam until Islam spread amongst them, so much so that there was no house except that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was mentioned therein. The Ansar and the Pledge of Aqaba. The first pledge. The following year, 12 men from the Ansar, 5 of them from the first 6, came to Makkah and pledged allegiance to the Prophet ﷺ, with the same terms that were upon the women as mentioned in Surah Al-Mumtahina at Al-Aqaba in Mina. They then returned to Al-Madinah. The second pledge of allegiance. The following year, 73 men and 2 women came, and amongst them were from the people that were there in the first pledge. They pledged allegiance to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ to protect him, just as they protect their women, children, and own lives. After this, the Prophet ﷺ traveled to them in Medina with his companions and chose from them 12 chiefs.